Catholic Moments, episode 115, Making Music, Praying Twice.
Blooming, finding joy in the journey and hope in the heaven yet to come. Blooming.
Hello and welcome to Catholic Moments. And now, here's your host and my mom, Lisa Hendy.
Hey friends, and welcome to this episode of Catholic Moments, the podcast from CatholicMom.com, where we talk about all things faith, family, and fun from a Catholic perspective. And this week's perspective is going to be slightly music-oriented. I'm very happy to welcome this week's guest, Kate Daneluk, who is the founder and creator of a wonderful ministry called Making Music, Praying Twice. And in keeping with our music theme, we have some wonderful inspiration from our good friend Sarah Reinhardt, who's going to share one of my favorite songs more towards the end of the show. But first off, let's get started with this week's Deacon Moment from our favorite online deacon, Deacon Tom Fox.
Well, last week, Lisa introduced Father Robert Barron, a warm and thought-provoking, highly educated priest and professor. Father Barron has gathered a number of people and resources to help tell the story, the true story, the beautiful story of the Catholic Church. This story is to be produced and told with the help and resources of his nonprofit organization known as Word on Fire. My wife Dee and I have responded with a financial contribution, and we pray that you will consider doing so as well. Cardinal Francis George heads the U.S. Conference of Catholic Bishops, and he's also the head of the Archdiocese of Chicago. About 3 years ago, the Cardinal asked Father Barron to work on energizing Catholics, especially drawing inactive Catholics back to their faith. As a result of that evangelization and his later work, Father Barron's organization is producing high-quality video projects as well as podcasts and support material. On the internet, some may have seen Father Barron's movie and book reviews or listened to his podcasts. I've never met Father, although we have exchanged emails and we promise to pray for each other. I remember one podcast by Father Barron in which he spoke on the baptism of the Lord. The reflection made the gospel event so meaningful. Why would a sinless God step forward for baptism? Father spoke about a Jesus who might be seen as an embarrassment to many who want to lift Christ and put him on a pedestal. Not so Jesus, not so this God of ours. This God, made man, was willing to step into the cold waters of the Jordan River, where his feet walked into the muck and mud. Because, as Father Barron said, our God can walk our walk with us. Our God can stand with sinners in the waters of baptism, to walk with, to be beside those he came to save. And as I thought of that image, Father Barron also reminded of Christ on a cross, hanging between two sinners. Where sinners are, there is Christ. We don't have a God of anger. We don't have a God of impatience. We have a just God of love and compassion and understanding. A God who is shoulder to shoulder with those he loves. The final thought that came to me was that sometimes I distance myself from God by my sins or my feelings of unworthiness and worry about the unforgivable nature of the things I do. And now I know to look beside me. Jesus is there, and he tells me to keep trying and that I can be with him in paradise. Father Robert Barron helped me to see past the mud and muck of my life, to look to the God who walks with me. Blessings, this is Deacon Tom.
Thanks so much, Deacon Tom, for that wonderful inspirational message, and especially for helping me to remind everyone that this month we're asking you to head over to wordonfire.org and to support the ministry of Father Robert Barron. If you missed last week's podcast, I'd recommend going back and listening to it. He gave a great interview, and it was such a pleasure to speak with him. And it's also a pleasure to invite you in joining me and Deacon Tom and other listeners in making a small contribution to to the important work that Father Barron is doing. So this month, we're inviting you to join us, especially in praying for his ministry. But if you're financially able to make a small donation, that would be wonderful as well. And we'll have links in the show notes anywhere where you listen to this show to enable you to head over and to support the work of Word on Fire, and especially their wonderful Catholicism project. So thank you for that. And next up, we're going to head right into this week's interview, my conversation with Kate Daneluk. Kate is the founder of a ministry called Making Music, Praying Twice, and we'll talk a little bit about her website and her ministry. But before we do that, I want to share with you a little snippet of music from Kate's program, and this is a lovely version of the Agnus Dei before we head into that conversation.
Agnus Dei, qui tollis peccata mundi, miserere nobis. Agnus Dei, qui tollis peccata mundi, miserere nobis. Agnus Dei, qui tollis peccata mundi, dona nobis pacem.
Next up on today's episode of Catholic Moments, I'm very happy to welcome our next guest, Kate Daneluk. And Kate is a mother of 4 and the co-developer and creative director of a wonderful program called Making Music, Praying Twice. How are you today, Kate?
I'm doing great, Lisa. How are you?
I'm terrific. I'm really thrilled to have you. We've been conversing by email for a while now, so it's really great to be able to get together and to share the important work that you're doing for Catholic families and Catholic parishes. And before we talk about the program, I'd like to have you just briefly introduce yourself and your family to our listeners.
Well, as you said, I'm Kate Daneluk, and my 4 children who are homeschooled, and my husband and I work around the clock on developing Making Music, Praying Twice. It's a program that we put together out of necessity because we needed something like this for our children. So my oldest daughter was about 1 year old when we came up with the idea, and several years later, and several hours of work and time and energy, we've really finally got the program exactly where we want it. But it's really been a blessing for my children as well, both to see the hard work that goes into an endeavor and the music that they basically live and eat and breathe and sleep. And they literally hear it in their sleep and in the womb. And it's been amazing for them to see the benefits. And I really feel blessed to be a part of this. I really feel God called us to do this, and it's a benefit to our whole family. So,
I'd like to really focus in on some of the work that you did prior to starting your family, because I think that it sets a really good basis for the expertise with which you come into this particular product. And so why don't you tell our little listeners a little bit more about the work that you did both at Princeton and on the in the mission field with music?
Well, I graduated with a theology degree, and I ended up teaching in the missions out in the Navajo reservation, and I was teaching music because that was a secondary area of study for me. I really found out in the missions that there was a real dichotomy culturally with the children, depending on their cultural background. So I had Navajo children, I had Hispanic children, and I had a few, we call them Anglo children, from the more broad American culture. And I would see such a difference depending on the child's culture at home and their music abilities when they came into kindergarten. I taught everything from kindergarten to high school music throughout my time there. They did succeed, and they certainly were able to learn music, but the children who had the strong musical environments, who had Hispanic mothers at home, who had a history in their culture of singing to them and playing with them musically, were so much stronger in music by kindergarten than the children who had the Navajo environment at home, which was a quieter environment where there wasn't a lot of speech and a lot of music. Unless, of course, it was an exception, like the children whose parents were professional musicians on the powwow. So that really kind of got my wheels turning on how important those early years are in musical development. So when we moved back to New Jersey and started our own family, I met my husband out there. He was the business director there, and coincidentally a very talented jazz percussionist.
Oh, terrific.
So that helped us link up a little bit. When we came back here and I heard about the early childhood, music and movement programs, I thought it was a bunch of bunk. I really thought, oh, that's silly. You can't teach children that little music. But when I went to my first program with my daughter because a friend wanted me to do it with her, I realized what it really was, and that these early childhood music programs were not about teaching music to little babies, but giving music to little babies and giving them these environments that allowed them to grow and become a part of these environments. If the environment is rich and musically diverse, the children's brain will grow to, make that happen, to become a part of that environment. And it so affirmed my experience in the missions.
Such a gift. Let me ask you specifically, what makes Making Music, Praying Twice such a special program in its Catholic identity?
Well, that was the thing. I did this program. I became a teacher in the program. I trained at the Center for Music and Young Children in Princeton, taught in the secular programs for a while, and it was just lacking the faith element. It was supposed to represent the music that encompassed a child's life and dealt with a child's life, but a big part of my child's life was her faith, and I had to keep supplementing. Teaching her chant, teaching her prayers, and changing the words to the songs on her CD. And I thought, but her curriculum here is not reinforcing what I'm trying to teach. And wouldn't it be great if these classes were at the parish and she was meeting other friends from the church?
Right, and mothers bonding with one another as well at the same time.
Exactly, because that's where mothers look for community.
Oh, yes.
Those early classes that they take with the children now. We don't have the neighborhood support systems and family support systems that we used to. So I started planning, and I said, put it down on paper and said to my husband, do you think this could work? Do you think this could happen? And a few years later, we were able to move a little bit more forward with the idea. I had some opportunities to teach some music again for young children in Catholic environments. So I began putting something together, and it just seemed like the Lord was really pushing us to move forward. We had a chance to move forward, and He encouraged us, and we just leapt with both feet and developed a program that was truly integrated with all of the fun stuff, all the musical diversity that was so important in a program like this, but also included faith as a part of the child's life. So the prayers are there. Gregorian chant, which is such a big part of our Catholic heritage in music, really was important to us. That had to be part of it. Not only is it important to the whole musical history of the world, it's really important to us in our Catholic heritage. And then hymns and prayers and a lot of the fun stuff, the spirituals that other programs take the God words out of. We keep those God words in.
Terrific. Kate, let me ask you to just kind of give an overview. I know that, first of all, I want to tell our listeners, our guest, Kate, can be reached through her website at makingmusicprayingtwice.com. And she's also very generously offered to donate a giveaway prize for our listeners. And so as you're listening to this, just know that you have an opportunity to possibly win this for your family or your parish. But Kate, tell us about sort of the two prongs of the program. You've got both the parish-based ministry and also a homeschool edition of the program.
Right. Well, we started with the parish-based ministry. We have our pilot program out here, which has been going successfully for a few years now. We're going into our fourth year with that. And the idea with that is, instead of having community-based classes that people teach, the parish offers early childhood music and movement classes from the Catholic perspective using our curriculum. Just like they have a school or a preschool, we're extending Catholic education down to even our littlest babies. And it's a chance for the moms to make those connections with other parishioners. It's also a great time, I really believe, to reach out to young parents who are just starting to feel that pull back to the church. When they have that first child, a lot of times that's where your heart starts thinking faith might be a little more important than I thought it was in college, So there's a few benefits to that. The first is we really believe that the faith-inclusive music and movement programs are really beneficial to the children, that they really do benefit and grow in music. And they really can improve their music aptitude by having strong music environment from an earlier age.
And so many studies have shown that the music aptitude carries over to other life skills and academic skills as well.
Yeah, to everything from study skills. Now they're even finding emotional benefits to children who do programs like this, that they're more emotionally capable. And of course, the math and science and language and all those other things. Their brains are actually bigger. You know, the active brain matter is actually larger in children who do these programs.
So tell us about the homeschool side of things with the program.
Well, I had some pressure to sell to homeschoolers, but because we are homeschoolers, I really understood that it was important to have a customized program that could guide a homeschooling parent through the process of teaching music at home, because there's more to it than putting on a CD or putting in a DVD. And we really didn't want to reinforce the passive experience and say,
right,
that's music. That's not teaching music. You have to interact. It has to be social. So we created the homeschool curriculum. It's based on our parish curriculum, but it has customized books and customized guidance for the parent in a way to adapt that to the home and to help them if they feel a little less, adequate in music education. A lot of parents will come to me and say, can I do this even though I'm not good at music? Usually they're better at music than they think.
Yes.
But on top of it, yes, there's guidance for you. There's guidance for mothers who are very educated in music, but there's also guidance for the parents who aren't really confident, and it tells them how to do it, and the CDs help you. The CDs are something to lean on if you're not really confident. And I've seen parents grow musically as well doing our programs. So hopefully they will also grow in music. But what we really want to encourage is more music in the home, more music in the environment, music that leads to faith and connects with their faith, and music from a variety of tonalities and meters that helps to grow those children's brains so they can achieve anything in music they want to later in life.
Well, Kate, it's a true blessing to be able to talk with you about making music praying twice. And I want to remind our listeners again that Kate and her co-developer, which is your husband, John, right, are very generously offering or sponsoring a giveaway. And so tell them what they'll win, Kate, if they are the big winner of our giveaway.
Well, we're offering our full homeschool edition curriculum kit, which is basically all you need for all of the early childhood years of your child's life. It has 5 seasonal CDs. The seasons in our program revolve around the liturgical year. So we have Ordinary Time Fall, Advent, Christmas, Epiphany is the second season, Ordinary Time Winter, Lent, and Easter. So you go through the entire school year according to the liturgical year. You change up the CDs so you have some variety. And it has a children's songbook for each of those times as well, so the children can get an environmental exposure to reading music, even though we're not teaching them to read yet, because we want them to sing and keep a beat first. But we want that exposure to written music just like we expose them to storybooks before they're ready to read. And then the parent manual, which is about 278 pages of music and suggestions and lesson plans and things that you can do at home to have that early childhood music and movement time in your own home, and to add music throughout your whole day, which is really key.
It really is. And, just the beautiful tie-in and the emphasis that you've placed. When I reviewed the materials, the emphasis on our faith really shines through, and your love of that really shines through. So I'm so happy to recommend this. Don't wait to be a winner. Go over and check out makingmusicprayingtwice.com, because even though we are going to give away one set of this, I hope that many families out there will take advantage of this wonderful program and also look into implementing it in your own parish. I know that Kate has information on the website about how you can go ahead and get started with starting a program at your parish, and there's a great section for you if you're interested in looking into that. So, Kate, our time is always way too short. Before I let you get back to your family and your work, I'd love to ask if there are any closing thoughts that you'd like to share with our listeners.
I really would just love to tell everybody that whether they use our program or not, to take some extra time and just think of 2 things they can do to have more interactive music time with their kids, to not always play the music, but sometimes sing the music, just because it really means so much to them, and to take the time to praise God with music. It's sometimes the best way to implement prayer time as a family with really little ones. So I just want to give that little tip and hope that families use music more and really take advantage of the gift God gave each and every one of us in our minds and in our bodies and in our souls to achieve in music.
Well, I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for all the hard work that I know has gone into this, and it's a gift that you're giving to families and parishes all over the country. And again, our guest has been Kate Daneluk, and you can visit Kate and her work at makingmusicprayingtwice.com. And don't forget to come on over to catholicmom.com for your opportunity to win this wonderful program. And thank you to you, Kate, for your time today.
Thank you, Lisa. God bless your work.
Now it's time to hear a little bit of your feedback, and I want to say thank you to those who've written in this week, my new friends on Facebook, and those who are following me over on Twitter, and everybody who's connected with me over at SQPN Connect, the great new social networking site from the StarQuest Production Network. Here's a few emails I wanted to share with you this week. The first is from Father Mark at St. Catherine of Alexandria Parish. He says, "Dear Lisa, thank you for your wonderful ministry with your podcast. I find it truly enjoyable, and I'm grateful for your many suggestions and resources, books and music you've introduced in your program. My prayers are with you." Well, thank you, Father Mark, and during this year for priests, we're praying for you and your fellow brother priests as well, so thanks for writing in. Next, I've got an email from my good friend Brian, who says, "That was a great podcast with Father Barron. Thanks for flagging his YouTube presentation on the Shack. I've shared that with my wife, and she really appreciated the review because we'd both read the book and discussed the same points that Father Barron had made." And thanks for writing in, Brian. And I want to share this note from my good friend, the Catholic foodie, Jeff Young, who says, "Wow, what an incredible podcast episode. Thank you so much, Lisa, and thanks too to Father Barron." And of course, I have to mention that I'm excited to see a foodie book as part of the contest. I don't know why that would excite me. Do you? Seriously, I love your show, and I'm simply awed by this episode. Thank you. Lastly, I just want to tell you that I'm so excited that very soon I'll be able to start taking my vitamins, my Catholic vitamins. Woohoo, Jeff Young. Jeff can be found over at catholicfoodie.com, one of my favorite podcasts, and I know you're going to love him if you're not already listening. And he made reference to a few things that I want to remind you about. The first is our contest. We've got 2 contests going on this week. The first is to win a children's prayer stool, which once you see it, you're going to fall in love with it and want one for yourself. And the second contest is a special promotion of a book called A Taste of Heaven, recipes from nuns and monks around our country. And it's sort of part travelogue, part cookbook. Absolutely beautiful book. We're giving away 2 copies this month over at catholicmom.com. So be sure to follow the links in the podcast notes for your opportunity to win that terrific book. And of course, Jeff made reference to Catholic Vitamins, the new show coming out in September from our own Deacon Tom Fox. And I'm waiting with bated breath for that particular podcast to hit the streets, and I can't wait to be its first subscriber. So thanks to Deacon Tom. A special confidential note to a certain someone who sent me a message on Facebook. I'll leave him nameless, but he should know who he is when he reads this. If you'll notice, certain someone, that all of the feedback that I have this week is from men and not from women, except for one voice feedback that I'm going to play right now. But you're in good company listening to this podcast if you're a man. It's not just for women. There are all kinds of topics that we discuss here that are relevant for everybody, whether you're a family person, a single person, or Catholic or not Catholic. There's always something to learn here on the podcast. So thanks to that new Facebook friend who's out there who might want to help me promoting this show. I'm keeping you in my prayers, and I want to thank you for putting a smile on my face with your Facebook note. And now let's hear from our good friend Lisa, and she's got a voice feedback for us this week.
Hi, Lisa. This is Lisa, one of the blogging sisters from Sound Mind and Spirit. It's so great to meet you at the CMNC back in June, and I have a picture of us that I just need to send you. Yesterday, I saw you share about the 3-minute retreat on your on Facebook about the iPhone app 3-minute retreat, and then I saw Barbara, Nebraska recommend it also. Well, I immediately downloaded it and read yesterday's retreat, and I was so touched by it that it turned into a whole new blog post for me. And now I can't wait to see what's in store for the next 3-minute retreat today. You always have such good information and recommendations to share with the rest of us, and of course your wonderful interviews. Thank you so much, and keep it up. I can't wait to see what you have next. Bye.
Hey, thanks, Lisa, for that voice feedback. You can get in on the voice feedback at 206-339-9272. If you can't remember that phone number, just head over to CatholicMoments.com or any of the other places where you listen to the show and take a peek at the show notes where we always have it listed. I want to recommend Lisa's blog of Sound Mind and Spirit, where she blogs with her sister Shelley. We'll have links in the show notes to that as well. It's a terrific blog, a great resource, and I just love their voice. And she's making reference to a little iPhone app that I found yesterday, the 3-minute retreat from Loyola Press, and I will have a link to that as well. I love everything from Loyola Press, and this particular tool is really something that I know is going to be part of a great spiritual toolbox that I have filled with all kinds of things on my iPod. I'm on my iPhone, excuse me. It's a 99-cent application. You can also check it out for free over at the Loyola Press website right there online. But I have to tell you, yesterday I was in a little bit of a frenzy. I think I've been sharing with you that I've got a super busy month of August. First of all, I'm preparing to send the boys back to school, which is my biggest priority, helping them get ready for the school year. But secondly, I'm working on talks for 2 major speaking engagements that I have. And the biggest thing hanging out there is the work I have on the book, which my book will be released in February. But right now, between now and August 25th, I'm working on final rewrites for the book. And so I'm a little bit busy these days, folks. And yesterday, I really needed my 3-minute retreat. And I have to tell you that just going to a quiet place, whipping out my iPhone and spending a few moments in prayer with that particular application did me a world of good. So check it out if you have an iPhone, or check it out online if you're sitting at your computer and having somewhat of a stressful day. Sometimes it's great just to take a pause and, to turn everything off around you and to really engage in some quiet. And if you're somebody who has a hard time quieting your mind, sometimes a tool like this can be really helpful. So I strongly recommend it. And now we're going to close out the show with in a special way with this week's Mary Moment and my good friend Sarah Reinhard. And I'm going to let this be the closing word for the show. Sarah has a wonderful reflection for us, and then we're honored to close out this week's show with a beautiful song, absolutely uplifting. It'll have you dancing, singing, and praying from our good friend Sarah Bauer. So here's Sarah Reinhard, the 2 Sarahs, to take us out for this week. And until next week, please know that you'll be in my prayers. I'd love to hear from you. You can drop me a line anytime at lisa@catholicmom.com. Or leave us a note over on the blog post, anywhere where you listen. Be sure to enter leaving a comment for your chance to win the prize that Sarah Reinhardt's going to be sharing with you, a great prize from Sarah Bauer. And so here's my good friend with this week's Mary Moment, Sarah Reinhardt. Have a great week, everybody. Bye-bye.
Hello, my name's Elizabeth.
And my name's Sarah Reinhardt.
It's time for Mary Moment.
I've been a Sarah Bauer fan for quite some time. I think I first heard about her because of something Danielle Bean blogged about, or because of something Lisa said. I downloaded her album Radiance and was hooked. Now, since the title of this segment is Mary Moments, you might be wondering just what Sarah Bauer has to do with Mary. Glad you asked. You see, I just heard a song from her previous album on another podcast a few weeks ago. I loved it so much I had to download it for myself, along with the rest of the songs on the album. It's called Mary's Got My Back. Sarah has kindly given us permission to share it, so as part of this Mary Moment, I'm going to include it at the end. This song inspires a lot of reflection in me even as it makes me want to jump up and dance, which is scary, as anyone who's actually seen me dance will tell you. I just love the idea of Mary having my back. I know my guardian angel is hard at work helping me and guiding me and guarding me, but to think that the Mother of God, my divine sister in arms, is also watching out for me makes me feel special in a whole new way. Mary loves us that much. And she loves us that much because God loves us so much that He gave us Mary. She's got our backs, yours and mine. So this week, let's call on her. Sarah Bauer, as it turns out, is a big fan of Catholic Moments, too. And when she heard that we wanted to use her song, she said that she'd give us a t-shirt to give away. We'll have a link in the show notes so that you can check out what the t-shirt looks like. Leave a comment on the post at any of the places where you listen by the end of August, and I'll have my young assistant Elizabeth draw a name out of a hat. We'll contact the winner at the beginning of September. Until next week, my friends, may Mary get your back as Sarah's song rings in your ears.
cross. My heart is pierced within as he bears forth your sin. He says, beloved, behold, my mother is your own, and so am I to you, your mother, it is true. And on this chain I wear each day, she hears me when I pray, when I pray. Mary's got my back, 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 Mary's got my back.
SQPN, leading the way in Catholic new media.